I hope everyone's well. Could I ask everyone to please like and subscribe so I can keep bringing you more stories from Britain's past? Thank you. Now here's a little trip down memory lane for you all. Picture this. It's the 1940s and young Tommy Atkins is just about to embark on his national service. Before he leaves for boot camp, he's got one last mission. Delivering a letter to his sweetheart back home. With a kiss and a promise to write soon, Tommy drops the letter in the post box and cycles off. Back at home, the village is buzzing with activity. In the center, the post office is a hive of gossip. Inside, Mrs. Miggins, the postmistress, is sorting through the day's mail. Among the bills and circulars, there's a personal touch, a postcard from Tommy. Quickly, she gathers the local women, and soon the room is filled with the latest news from the war front. This was no ordinary post office. It was the heart of the village, a place where news both local and global unfolded. In the pre-television days, the arrival of a letter was a major event. Children would run to the window, eager to spot the postman. The postman's bicycle bell became the soundtrack of their day. When the sound echoed down the lane, it meant excitement. Perhaps a long-awaited letter from a family member studying in the city or working in the armed forces. Every letter was a tiny adventure, bringing news from a world beyond their village. For the elderly who rarely ventured out, the post office served as a link to the outside world. They gathered by the window, their faces crinkling with smiles as they exchanged greetings with those they knew passing by. The warmth of human connection made the post office more than just a workplace. It was a social hub. But it wasn't just letters that passed through this post office. Telegrams, too, played their part in connecting lives. These brief, formal messages could convey vital information. When a telegram arrived, everyone paused. The words were terse, devoid of emotion. Yet they carried momentous news, sometimes of joy, sometimes of profound sorrow. Imagine the scene. The women gathered around Mrs. Miggins, listening intently as she read out the message, a telegram from Mr. Palmer. Deepest condolences on your loss, the king and queen. A hush fell over the room. Mr. Palmer's wife had died suddenly. He was an old man. No one had been expecting this news, yet here it was, delivered by the cold hand of bureaucracy in the form of a telegram. These messages, though impersonal, were a lifeline, a way to share in the joys and sorrows of the community. They wove a tapestry of shared experiences, binding the villagers together in a network of support. The post office walls, if they could speak, would tell tales of lost loves, of families torn apart by war, of dreams carried across continents. There are many stories contained within the four walls of a typical English post office. But it's not just the solemnity of the telegrams that makes this place so poignant. Oh no, not at all. The lighter side of post office life was never far behind. Remember those wonderfully illustrated Christmas card ads for Cadbury's chocolate? How they used to make us drool as children. Well, those cards weren't just confined to the drawing room. They found their way into the post office too, creating a festive atmosphere in the most unlikely of places. Who could forget the excited chatter as children pored over these glossy pages? Dreaming of a chocolate wonderland? Even the stern-faced postmasters couldn't resist a smile at this seasonal spectacle. It was a reminder that even in the midst of everyday routines, magic could be found if you knew where to look. So why did the post office become such an important part of village life? It was more than just a government service. It was a social institution. It was a place where the rhythms of the outside world could be felt, where news was shared and where lives were touched in ways big and small. It was an integral part of the community, a silent witness to the joys and sorrows of the people it served. So the next time you see an old post office, take a moment to imagine the stories it holds. The laughter, the tears, the hopes and dreams that have unfolded within its walls. These buildings are more than just bricks and mortar. They're repositories of memories, each room echoing with the whispers of the past. And with that, our journey through time comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed this glimpse into a bygone era. Did your own family ever receive a telegram or a letter from someone far away? Why not share your thoughts and memories in the comments below? Your stories could be the next chapter in this post office tale. Until next time, goodbye. Now close your eyes and picture the scene, a bustling city street in the 1980s. Neon lights reflecting in the wet tarmac, music pulsing from the nearby disco. In the midst of all this, tucked between a newsagent and a greengrocer, is the post office. It's not as busy as it once was, but it's still a hive of activity. People pop in to pay bills, pick up a postal order, or send a letter. The postmaster, a man with a handlebar mustache and twinkling eyes, serves everyone with a cheery word and a joke. He knows most of his customers by name, and for many, a chat in the post office is the highlight of their day. For some, it's a chance to escape the solitude of an empty house. For others, a brief window of human warmth before returning to the gray anonymity of the city. Both these scenes, separated by decades, are glimpses into the heart of the British way of life. The post office wasn't just a place to send and receive mail. It was a social hub, a source of news, and for many, a lifeline to the outside world. But how did this institution, born in the 19th century, evolve to become such an integral part of village and city life? And how did it manage to maintain this role throughout the dramatic social, technological, and economic changes of the 20th century? The story begins with the Industrial Revolution and the burgeoning of large cities. As people flocked to cities for factory jobs, they faced not only new opportunities, but also stark living conditions and a growing sense of anonymity. It was in this context that the first purpose-built post offices emerged. They were designed to be more than just places to handle mail. They were intended to be beacons of civility and order in an increasingly chaotic world. The post offices were staffed by civil servants, offering a reassuring sense of permanence in a time of rapid change. Their uniforms, with their tall hats and shiny buttons, were a clear statement of authority and respectability. But what made them truly special was what happened over the counter. Here, in this small space, a complex network of human relationships was forged. The postmasters and postmistresses were often given considerable discretion in how they ran their offices. This led to a culture of personal responsibility and initiative, where post office workers became integral members of their communities. They knew their customers, their needs, and their stories, and this knowledge was as valuable as any stock in trade. For example, if a customer sent a letter without a stamp, the post office worker might put their own stamp on it and ask the customer to repay them next time. Trust was the foundation of this system, and it worked. People trusted the post office workers to handle their mail with care, and they, in turn, trusted their customers to honor their debts. By the 20th century, this system was in full swing, and post offices were at the heart of British life. During both World Wars, they played a vital role in keeping families connected. And in times of hardship, the post office became a source of comfort and continuity. After rationing ended, and people could finally buy new things, the post office was often the first to get the news. Postmen and women would excitedly share the latest gossip as they delivered the morning's mail. But the post office was not just a source of news, it was a creator of it. The arrival of the postman was eagerly awaited, especially by those living alone or elderly residents. For many, the daily ritual of checking the post was a welcome interruption to the routine of daily life. A letter or a card meant a connection to the outside world, a tangible reminder that someone was thinking of them. It was a moment of anticipation and delight, a chance to escape into the thoughts of someone far away, or simply to be reminded of the love and support of friends and family. However, with the rise of the internet and the mail, the role of the post office began to change. People had new ways to communicate in the post office. Once the primary source of news and connection became just one of many. But despite the challenges, the post office remained an important part of the community fabric. Its role may have evolved, but its importance never faded in the digital age. The post office continues to serve, to connect, and to remind us of the enduring power of human relationships in an ever-changing world. So next time you see a post office, take a moment to appreciate its rich history and the vital role it has played and continues to play in our lives. This is the story of a red pillar box. The day usually began with the arrival of the postman, pedaling up on his sturdy bicycle, leather satchel slung across his shoulder, bursting with letters. Villagers would be waiting, some eager for a love letter, some anxious for a bill, and others simply hoping for a word from family far away. For the postman, it was more than just a job. It was a daily adventure, delivering not just mail, but messages, moments, and memories. He knew the village well, its winding paths and hidden nooks. He was a part of its rhythm, its seasons, its joys, and sometimes its sorrows. In those days, a letter was not just ink on paper. It was a voice carried across miles, something to be read and reread, folded carefully, and often tucked into a Bible or a family drawer for safekeeping. A letter was a tangible piece of someone's thoughts, a treasure to be held onto. And then, of course, there were telegrams. How the heart would quicken when the postmistress slid one across the counter. In the days before phones, a telegram was the fastest way to send urgent news. It might be about a death, a sudden illness, or even a lost child. The telegram boys who delivered them would race through the villages, their bicycles weaving in and out of the traffic, the blue slip of paper held out to the recipient, a message from far away delivered as fast as they could pedal. But telegrams weren't always bad news. They could bring joyous tidings too. Sometimes it was joyful, announcing a wedding, a birth, or safe arrival after a long journey. But other times, the blue slip of paper carried sorrow so heavy it seemed to silence the whole village. During the war years and even into the 1950s, families feared the knock on the door with a telegram that could change their lives forever. Those telegrams, whether bringing joy or sorrow, were a lifeline to a world beyond the village. They connected people to loved ones in far-off lands, serving as a physical embodiment of the invisible threads that bound families and friends together. Yet the post office was not all solemnity. It was also the hub of gossip. Farmers would stop by after selling their milk, chatting about the weather or the price of hay. Housewives lingered, exchanging recipes, family upgrades, and the latest tidbits of village life. Children, clutching coins from their pocket money, begged for petty sweets or colorful stamps to add to their collections. There was a ritual to it all, the comforting routine of posting and receiving, of knowing that somewhere someone was thinking of you enough to put pen to paper, or these days, fingers to keyboard. The building itself often carried a timeless charm: red brick walls, a green wooden door, and of course, the proud red pillared box standing outside painted with the royal insignia. That postbox became a silent witness to decades of love letters, birthday cards, Christmas wishes, and all the emotions folded into those envelopes. It saw the hopes and dreams placed inside it, the good days and the bad. Through its slot went the currency of human interaction, our thoughts, our feelings, our connections. The post office wasn't just a place to send and receive mail. It was a community hub, a social lifeline, a place where the personal stories of an entire village were written, delivered, and cherished. It was a place where the simple act of posting a letter could brighten someone's day, and the arrival of the postman was more than just a duty call. It was a moment of anticipation. So the next time you see a red pillar box, remember the countless stories it holds within its sturdy frame. Remember the postman and the postmistress, the villagers and the children, and the endless stream of letters that wove the fabric of their lives. Remember the love letters, the bills, the telegrams, and all the hopes and dreams that were once entrusted to the care of the post. Because in every rustle of pages, every licked stamp, every folded piece of paper, there's a story waiting to be told. This is a story about the old village post offices in Britain. You know those quintessential pictures of the village post office, usually with the notice saying, "Post Office Holidays," displayed prominently, sometimes with a red telephone box alongside. Well, for many families, especially in rural Britain, the post office was their only link to the outside world. It was more than just a place to send parcels or collect pensions. For many, it was a lifeline. Phones were rare in the early years, especially in small villages. Television was just beginning to enter homes, and long-distance travel was still expensive. A letter then was more than communication. It was connection, comfort, and continuity. In an age before the internet and social media, a letter was a tangible piece of someone you cared about, a way of bridging the physical distance that could otherwise feel so isolating. Do you remember how carefully people wrote their letters back then? Sitting at the kitchen table with a fountain pen, the ink bottle nearby, writing slowly, thoughtfully, as if every word mattered. Because it did. Letters were not dashed off like today's emails or text messages. They were a craft, a ritual. And when that envelope finally slid across the post office counter, stamped and sealed, it carried a piece of the sender's heart. The postmaster knew everyone and everything about everyone. If Mrs. Miggins was expecting a letter from her son serving in far-off lands, he would make sure to fetch it personally and see to it that she received it as soon as it arrived. For the village folk, the post office was a place where news was shared, deals were made, and lives were touched. It was a hub of the community, a physical manifestation of the bonds that held them together. Many post offices were also what we call a sub-post office, meaning they provided additional services such as collecting and distributing inland revenue stamps, which everyone had to have for their income tax. Additionally, some post offices provided banking services, allowing people to deposit and withdraw money, pay bills, and even exchange currency. These services were particularly important in villages without easy access to banks, making the post office an even more vital part of daily life. It wasn't just about transactions. It was about the sense of shared humanity that permeated the space. Children were fascinated by the arrival of the postman, a uniformed figure who seemed to appear magically, bringing with him the possibility of good news and greetings from faraway places. Collecting the mail became a cherished task, a rite of passage for many children, their small hands clutching the cool leather strap of the post bag, their eyes shining with the thrill of responsibility as they walked the route their parents had walked before them. As the years passed, the importance of the village post office in the face of growing technology and changing times began to fade, but the memories of the connections it fostered remained. Can you remember the smell of the post office? A curious mix of ink, paper, stamps, and time. It's a scent that carries with it 1,000 stories, a million farewells and greetings. Sadly, many of these beloved institutions have closed down due to dwindling footfall, a victim of our fast-paced modern times. But those of us fortunate enough to have known the charm of the village post office will forever cherish the lessons and patience, the value of handwritten words, and the warmth of a community united by more than just bricks and mortar. Now it's your turn. What are your memories of the village post office? Did you have one in your town? Did you enjoy the personal touch and the sense of community it provided? Or perhaps you have fond memories of helping your parents with their postal duties as a child. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories and memories might provide comfort and joy to others who share similar experiences. The afternoon brought a different crowd. Shopkeepers now emerged from their stores, their faces flushed from the day's heat and the effort of bargaining with customers. Tradesmen, too, would appear, their forearms corded with muscle from a morning of carpentry or stonemasonry. They came for telegrams, those thin, flimsy strips of paper that could bring such momentous news, sometimes joyful, sometimes sorrowful. I remember as a child clutching my mother's hand, her knuckles white with tension as she collected a telegram. We didn't speak much on the way home. Her face was ashen and the telegram, like a small white flag, fluttered in her hand. But it wasn't just about receiving. Life around the post office was also about sending. Week by week, month by month, we built up a collection of parcels to be posted. There were whereupon scarves going to soldiers stationed overseas, homemade jams and pickles finding their way to distant county shows, even freshly caught fish from the local lake being transported to London to be served up as sashimi in a top restaurant. Each parcel told a story, each stamp a fragment of one, and the rituals of posting were as familiar to us as our own handwriting. In summer, when the sun beat down on the slanting glass roof of the post office, the air thick with the scent of hay and ripening fruit, we'd sit on the low stone wall outside, watching the postman work his rounds. His gait was as regular as the ticking of a clock, his steps echoing the routines of countless lives. He knew the rhythm of the village intimately. A light knock on the door meant Mrs. Miggins was expecting a letter. 2 sharp raps indicated the baker had run out of sugar, and a long whistle, a signal that old man Jenkins was ready for his afternoon tea. It was a language unspoken but understood, a harmony of knocks and whistles and the rustle of paper. When the evening shadows lengthened and the postman had finished his rounds, the post office closed for the day. The bell above the door chimed, a simple, unadorned sound, yet it held within it the melody of the village. For a moment, you could almost believe that the very stones of the building were singing, and as we walked away, the echo of that chime lingered, a reminder of the day's exchanges, the connections made and kept alive. There was something incredibly reassuring about this, the sense that even if miles and months stretched between us, the post office, like a constant heartbeat, was ensuring that the ties that bound us remained unbroken. We might have scattered to the winds, each pursuing our individual paths, but the post office was a grounding force, a silent witness to our collective story. In the tapestry of our lives, the thread of the post office ran through it all, connecting moments, weaving together lives, anchoring us to the rhythms of a shared existence. Oh, I do love a good story about the post office. I really do. Do you remember when we made those? I wonder if they still make them. You know, those little cardboard boxes that you could take your letters to school to show your friends, and they had all the pictures on the front, you know, like, oh, I'm going to Spain, or I'm going to Blackpool, and then you put your address here, and then your friend could put their address here, and you lick this, and you stick it on the back. Did anyone else ever do that? Children love the post office too, though perhaps for different reasons. To a child, the rows of stamps behind the counter were treasures, each one carrying the face of the monarch or some distant design. Many young boys began their stamp collections with penny stamps, purchased from their local post office, carefully placing them into small albums. And then there were the sweets, sherbet lemons, barley sugars, or licorice sticks, often sold from glass jars that stood temptingly beside the counter. With just a penny or two of pocket money, a child could walk away with a sweet and a smile. The post office was also a place of anticipation in an era before instant communication. Waiting was part of life. A family might spend weeks longing for a letter from a son serving overseas. In the armed forces, a young woman might pass by the post office every afternoon, hoping for a word from her sweetheart working in London. Every creak of the bicycle, every thump of letters into the red pillar box, carried the possibility of joy. Of course, not every message was joyful. The arrival of a telegram was a moment that could freeze time. Everyone in the village understood the weight of that small envelope. It might carry good news, safe arrived, baby born, coming home. But it could also carry heartbreak, regret to inform, accident occurred, service required. The postmistress herself often knew, even before opening the envelope, what such a message meant. She handed them across the counter with gentle eyes, aware that in that instant, she was delivering more than words. She was delivering fate. I know the post office had become a much more difficult business in recent years. I mean, who sends a letter anymore? And most people have stopped buying stamps because they just send emails instead. And no one wants to go into town to pick up a parcel because they just order everything online, so it gets delivered straight to their door. So I understand why some people think the post office is useless these days. But I don't think it will disappear completely anytime soon. Certainly not in my lifetime. But I do think it will be very different. And I hope that we can still rely on its service. If you are enjoying these stories, please do let me know. I'd love to hear what you think. Also, please do subscribe, because then I can keep telling you lots more stories about Britain in the 20th century. Thank you so much. Bye now. Hello, friends. Today we will talk about the post office. For many years, it was the heart of the community, a place where you could find out all the latest news, a place where you could meet friends and neighbors. It was always there like an old reliable friend. In those years, there was also a quiet dignity about the way people used the post office. In those days, money orders were a lifeline for families. A son working in a factory in Birmingham might send a money order home each month, helping his parents keep the cottage warm, or the pantry stocked. Wives of men at sea often collected postal orders that were their only means of survival. Every transaction carried a story, though few were spoken aloud. Beyond letters and telegrams, the post office had its own rhythm of gossip and companionship. You could never quite separate official business from social life. A farmer might drop in to post a bill and linger to talk about the weather. A school teacher, picking up her post, might hear whispers of an engagement between the young villagers. The postmistress herself often became the keeper of secrets, knowing far more than she ever let slip. Seasonal rhythms shaped the atmosphere, too. At Christmas, the post office transformed into a hive of activity. Stacks of parcels piled high behind the counter, queues stretched out the door, and the air was filled with the smell of pine from wreaths villagers carried under their arms. Children eagerly posted cards with hand-drawn snowmen, while fathers carefully tied string around boxes of homemade cakes, and whereupon scarves bound for relatives in faraway towns. The Christmas post was exhausting for the staff, but magical for the village, proof of connection, proof of belonging. Then came summer, with its own rituals. Postcards from Blackpool, Brighton, or the Lake District poured in, their glossy pictures brightening the display racks. Families who could afford a holiday sent cheerful notes back to the village. Weather fine, wish you were here. Those postcards were not just travel souvenirs. They were signs of prosperity, hope, and the joy of simple pleasures. It is difficult to convey the importance of the post office in those days. It was not merely a business establishment. It was a social hub, a source of vital funds for many households, and a silent witness to the joys and struggles of everyday life. In a time before internet banking and the mail, it played a crucial role in the village economy. Money orders were a lifeline, ensuring that wages from factory jobs in distant cities reached the families who depended on them. And when fishermen set sail, their wives would often receive postal orders, their only sustenance until their husbands returned. The post office was also a place where news was exchanged, not just national or international events, but also the personal stories that made up the fabric of village life. The postmistress and the postman were often the first to know when a couple was engaged, or a family was expecting a new arrival. They knew when a local business was struggling and when a death had cast a pall over a household. Yet these were stories that were shared only if people chose to tell them, and discretion was as important as the stamps and envelopes behind the counter. For the older villagers, the post office was a link to a bygone era. They had seen the arrival of telegraphs and telephones, but they still preferred the tangible, the feel of a letter in their hands, the sound of a postal order being filled out. There was a certain satisfaction in knowing that their sons and daughters, even those working in faraway cities, had not forgotten the old ways. And it wasn't just the older generation who valued the post office. For the children, it was a place of wonder. They loved the bright array of postcards and the chance to help their parents address envelopes. Posting a letter was a special treat, a miniature adventure that took them beyond the confines of their village. The post office was a microcosm of the world, bringing people and places together in the most ordinary of ways. In a world that's increasingly digital, it's easy to forget the importance of such institutions. But for those who remember the old post offices, it's more than nostalgia that lingers. It's the echo of a way of life that valued connection, community, and the simple act of sending a letter. And now I invite you to share your memories. Did you frequent the post office as a child? What role did it play in your life? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. This extract is from a much longer piece of writing. Can you guess what the title is? There was also a quiet dignity about the way people used the post office. In those years, money orders were a lifeline for families. A son working in a factory in Birmingham might send a money order home each month, helping his parents keep the cottage warm or the pantry stocked. Wives of men at sea often collected postal orders that were their only means of survival. Every transaction carried a story, though few were spoken aloud. Beyond letters and telegrams, the post office had its own rhythm of gossip and companionship. You could never quite separate official business from social life. A farmer might drop in to post a bill and linger to talk about the weather. A school teacher, picking up her post, might hear whispers of an engagement between two young villagers. The postmistress herself often became the keeper of secrets, knowing far more than she ever let slip. Seasonal rhythms shaped the atmosphere too. At Christmas, the post office transformed into a hive of activity, stacks of parcels piled high behind the counter, queues stretched out the door, and the air was filled with the smell of pine from wreaths villagers carried under their arms. Children eagerly posted cards with hand-drawn snowmen, while fathers carefully tied string around boxes of homemade cakes and whereupon scarves bound for relatives in faraway towns. The Christmas post was exhausting for the staff, but magical for the village, proof of connection, proof of belonging. Then came summer, with its own rituals. Postcards from Blackpool, Brighton, or the Lake District poured in, their glossy pictures brightening the display racks. Families who could afford a holiday sent cheerful notes back to the village, weather fine, wish you were here. Those postcards were not just travel souvenirs. They were signs of prosperity, hope, and the joy of simple pleasures. So what is the title? The title of this piece of writing is The Post Office. This extract is taken from a much longer piece of writing. What do you think it's from? Is it an article? Is it a story? Is it a description? That's right. It's a description of a place, a scene. It's actually the opening to a longer description of the English seaside town of Broadchurch, which is the name of the fictional town where this story is set. And there are lots more descriptions that follow this one in the book that I'm reading. So if you like this kind of video, if you like descriptions of places, I'll link to the full video below. You can watch the rest of the description of Broadchurch online. Let me know what you think of this kind of video. If you like it, we can do more. It's probably fair to say that the internet has somewhat changed the way we communicate these days. Sending a message halfway across the world is as simple as clicking a few buttons and filling out a form. But before the age of the World Wide Web and smartphones, there was another way to send messages and connect with people far and wide: the humble post office. In the heart of every village and on every street corner, there was usually a red pillar box ready to accept your letter or parcel and deliver it to its destination. But the post office did more than just connect people through miles and miles of wires and roads. It became a central part of village life, and for some, it was a lifeline. When a child went missing, the search would begin at the post office. If you gave directions to a stranger, you might say, "Turn left by the post office or meet me at the post box." It was as much a part of the village landscape as the church spire or the pub. Without it, the place would have seemed incomplete. And then there were the human stories, the small dramas that unfolded across the counter. An elderly widow waiting for a letter that never came. A young boy nervously mailing his first love letter, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. A soldier's wife trembling as she opened an envelope with unfamiliar handwriting. These were the moments that gave the post office its soul. It was a place where the old and the young came together. Children learning the ways of the world by watching the sorting of parcels and the reading of addresses. pensioners sharing memories with the postmaster while the stamps were being licked and stuck. Village life, both past and present, passed through the post office doors, and with that came a sense of continuity, a link to the generations that had come before. The post office was a living archive of the village, storing not just letters and parcels, but stories and memories. Every stamp, every address, every piece of mail carried with it the weight of a personal narrative, a testament to the countless lives that intersected within those four walls. What made the village post office truly special was its ability to bind together the lives of so many different people. It wasn't just about communication, it was about community. Neighbors who might otherwise have passed each other in silence found themselves talking in the queue, sharing worries, laughter, or simply a nod of understanding. In a world that often felt uncertain, the post office was steady, reliable, and familiar. As the years rolled on, technology began to creep closer. Radios brought the world's news into sitting rooms. Telephones began appearing in more households, and eventually televisions flickered to life in corner shops. But even as these changes came, the village post office held its place. For the people of those decades, it remained a trusted hub, the place where life's most important moments, whether joyful or tragic, passed through a single wooden counter and a pair of caring hands. And so, day by day, year by year, the story of each village post office unfolded quietly, woven into the greater fabric of British life. Even when the contents of a letter remained a secret between the sender and the receiver, the post office itself became a kind of storyteller, chronicling the joys, sorrows, hopes, and dreams that were entrusted to its care. It was a role that might have gone unnoticed, a job that demanded little fanfare, but without which the true essence of a community would have been diminished. Thank you for listening. You can catch more of my stories through the provided information. Until next time, goodbye. In the tapestry of a nation's life, there are threads of change so profound that when they are pulled, they unravel the very fabric of communities. Such was the case with the quiet but significant closures of village post offices across the United Kingdom. This is a story that goes beyond economics and delves into the heart of human connection. But let's rewind the clock. Imagine the heart of England or Scotland or Wales, a picturesque village bathed in the soft glow of the late 20th century. The village post office, nestled in the heart of it all, was more than just a place to send and receive mail. It was the social epicenter, a place where gossip was exchanged, friendships were forged, and lives were touched. The post office was not merely a business. It was a sanctuary of sorts, a place where people from all walks of life came together. But by the 1980s and 1990s, closures began. Small post offices across the UK started shutting their doors, victims of progress and policy for many villages. This felt like losing more than a service. It was like losing part of their soul. The red pillared box might still stand outside, but without the warm glow of light behind the post office window. The center of community life dimmed. Yet even as the buildings closed, the memories endured. Ask anyone who lived through those times, and their eyes will soften as they recall the atmosphere, the sound of the bicycle bell, the smell of envelopes and ink, the sight of neighbors gathering to exchange words while waiting in line, the steady voice of the postmistress greeting everyone by name. These are not just fragments of nostalgia. They are reminders of what it means to belong. In today's world, where messages fly across screens in the blink of an eye, it is easy to forget how precious communication once was. But perhaps that is exactly why the story of the village post office matters so much. It teaches us to slow down, to value the weight of a word, the joy of connection, the humanity behind every piece of correspondence. Picture this, a young girl clutching her mother's hand, both of them entering the post office to collect a letter. The girl's eyes, wide with wonder, watching as the postmistress, a woman with a heart as warm as her smile, hands over the letter. The mother's face, etched with the lines of a life well lived, lights up with a smile as she takes the letter. Words cannot express the emotions contained within that small piece of paper, but the postmistress, with her years of experience reading faces, knows that this letter brings joy. That evening, as the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the village, the mother and daughter sit at their kitchen table. The letter is placed between them, unopened, a silent promise to share this moment together. Later, when the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky, the mother breaks the seal. The contents of the letter, though penned in a distant land, speak of love, of family, and of a bond that transcends distance. As the mother reads, the young girl, nestled against her side, listens, her imagination painting pictures in the air. The letter, more than just words on paper, becomes a bridge connecting hearts and creating memories that will last a lifetime. In these tales, we see more than just the passing of time. We see the evolution of human relationships, the changing dynamics of families, and the enduring power of communication. Each letter, each postcard becomes a vessel carrying dreams, fears, hopes, and love. As the last post offices close their doors, we are left with more than just memories. We are left with a profound sense of loss, a void created by the absence of these vital community hubs. The spirit of the village post office, however, refuses to be confined to the past. It lives on in the smiles we share, the letters we write, and the connections we cherish. This is not just a story about post offices closing down. It is a story about the essence of community, about human connection and the power of shared experiences. It is a reminder that in the tapestry of our lives, the smallest threads, when woven together, create the most beautiful patterns. The closure of village post offices might be a reality we have to accept, but the memories and the values they represent will continue to guide us. In a world that often feels disconnected, they teach us the importance of reaching out, of truly connecting and of valuing the spaces that bring us together. Do you remember when the post office was at the heart of every village? Not just a place to send parcels and collect pensions, but a social hub where people came together to share news and gossip over the counter. We've been exploring the history of rural Britain, and today is the turn of the post office, an institution that has evolved with the times while adapting to changing needs. Join us as we look back at how the post office shaped village life. The first post offices were established in the 16th century, initially tasked with delivering mail to and from London. These early post offices served a dual purpose, providing both a communication service and a means of collecting taxes. The network expanded gradually, reaching every corner of the country by the 19th century. The arrival of the telegraph and telephone further increased the post office's importance, allowing for near-instant communication across vast distances. By the 20th century, the post office had become an indispensable part of daily life in the UK. No longer were people relying on handwritten letters delivered by horse-drawn carriages. They could now send telegrams or make calls at the drop of a hat. This transformed the way people communicated, bringing families and friends closer together despite the miles that separated them. In the early days, post offices were often run by local shopkeepers or innkeepers who took on the additional responsibility as a sideline. However, as the postal service grew, dedicated postmasters and postmistresses were appointed to ensure the smooth operation of the post offices. These individuals played a pivotal role in their communities, not only delivering the mail, but also providing a vital social service. Post offices were often the hub of the community, a place where people came to exchange news and information. The postmaster or postmistress was often at the center of village life, knowing everyone's name and being the first to hear about any local event or gossip. This sense of community was fostered by the post office's cozy atmosphere, complete with creaky wooden counters, shelves stacked with stationery, and the comforting aroma of freshly stamped envelopes. But the post office's role extended beyond just delivering mail and fostering social connections. During the two world wars, post offices played a crucial role in keeping families informed. At a time when news was carefully controlled, people relied on the post office to deliver letters and parcels from their loved ones serving on the front lines. For many, these letters were the lifeline to the outside world, offering a glimpse of normality and reminding them of the loved ones waiting for their safe return. After the wars, the post office continued to adapt, introducing new services such as the National Health Service in the 1940s, which saw post offices become the primary distribution point for prescription forms. This role was later taken over by purpose-built NHS offices. But the Post Office's association with government services continued with the introduction of the National Insurance Scheme in the 1948. Once again, post offices were at the forefront, this time ensuring that people received their national insurance cards and helped them understand this new benefit. Throughout these changes, the post office remained a constant, a reliable and trusted institution that adapted to the evolving needs of the community. As technology advanced, the post office embraced innovation, offering new services such as online banking and mobile phone top-ups. Yet despite these changes, the post office never lost its essential character, always remaining a friendly and accessible service for all. However, in recent years, the role of the post office in village life has diminished with the rise of online shopping and digital communication. Many post offices have closed, leaving a void in the community that they once served so well. The disappearance of these neighborhood institutions has left many villages feeling disconnected and forgotten. So do you remember the post office in your village? How has it changed over the years? Or perhaps it's gone altogether. Share your thoughts in the comments below. As we continue our journey through rural Britain's history, we invite you to join our growing community. Subscribe to the channel and become part of our daily explorations. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to give it a thumbs up.